Hi, welcome to this demo of Spectrum Protect Plus version 10.1.7. Nguyen is going to be walking you through using the command line to do a resource backup and a resource restore. He will also be showing you how this correlates to what you would be seeing inside of the Spectrum Protect Plus user interface, and he'll show you where this is documented if you want to get more information on it. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lou.
Okay, thank you. Through the CLI, I'm going to do a simple backup and restore. Mine takes about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'll start with the demo and then I'll go over the slides while the demo is running. So first in my SPP window, I have my cluster here. And under that, I have a namespace called Demo1. And under Demo1, I have one PVC, but also the namespace resources. So I'm going to back up just the namespace resources here. I've already created a YAML file called brres, and so I'll apply that and I'll show you what's in it a little bit later. For the command line, the idea is that you don't necessarily need your SPP administrator to do everything. And with Kubernetes, of course, it's almost always a command line. So Kubernetes app developer or administrator will be very familiar with this already. I applied that YAML, and what that does is it applied this SLA to my resources in this namespace. And then depending on the SLA, that will trigger backups later. It could be set for hourly or daily or whatever. And so all this does is assign the SLA to the resources. And now I'm going to show you the asterisk here that I just created. You can see that the backup status is ready. It applied the SLA, Lou SLA here. Some of the usual stuff, backup resources, and I'll show you the details of that in just a minute. So after the BASREC is created, what it does is it queries the SPP for the list of backups that are available. And I took a bunch of backups earlier, so we should be able to see it in just a minute here. Okay, so here it is. Here's a list of all the backups I have, and I took a lot. Well, you can see a few. This first one under status is last status update. This is when this query to SPP was done. And then after that, we have a list of backups. So this is the first backup here. This one's a copy backup. And so the type can either be copy or fast being snapshot. And then it has a timestamp of when it was taken. It has the snapshot name. In the snapshot name field, this is where we put the name of the Valero backup. And then for copy backups, we also have the name of the vSnap storage location. So that's a copy backup. For a snapshot backup, again, we have the type, the timestamp, and the snapshot name, which is the Valero backup name. But we don't have a vSnap location because it's not backed up to vSnap. Those are the backups that I took earlier. So we'll demonstrate a restore here. And what I'll show you is I'll delete a namespace scope resource, in this case, a service, and then we'll do a restore, snapshot restore, and that will put the service back. Again, I have my namespace, Demo1, and the service name is db2-service. I'm going to delete that now. Okay, so that guy's deleted, no longer there. And so, normally you could go into the GUI and go through create jobs and restore that way, but I'm going to show you how to restore with the command line. I've created a YAML here called restore rec, and again, I'll show you the details of that later. So I applied that via the command line, and you can see in SPP that the job is created immediately. And this will run for 3 or 4 minutes, so I'll take this time to show you how those YAMLs worked. Okay, so here's my backup one. The things you'll have to worry about are the name. So with PVCs, the name of the BASREC is automatically the name of the PVC. But for resources, you can name it whatever you want. In this case, I've named it backup res. The namespace is Demo1. So this is the namespace I'm backing up. And then request type, in this case, it's backup resources. I'll show you the different options in a minute. And the scope can either be cluster or namespace. In this case, I'm backing up just the namespace. And that's the SLA that I assigned it to. And the restore one looks similar. Again, any name I want, the namespace I'm restoring, the type is going to be restore resources as opposed to restoring the PVCs. Again, scope is namespace. backup BASREC. So this is where we had to create the backup BASREC in order to get the list of backups that are available in SPP. And so this is where we tell the restore job which one to query, and we put that there. That's the same as I had in the backup res here. And then the restore type, we can either do a fast restore or a copy restore. And those are pretty basic. If you look into the details of the documentation, which you can see some of the other options that are available. So in the documentation, you have scheduling backup jobs. So this is the type of backup resources, and these are the details here. And then another type is the on-demand backup resources. So that first type, the backup resources, just assigns an SLA to the resource, but on-demand backup resources will assign the SLA and then start the backup job immediately. And then the third one is the restore resources. That's the restore one I just did. A couple of the things that may not have come up before. When you're restoring, you can request a restore point and put in a timestamp, and that will restore the backup that you want. If you don't put anything, it'll put the latest one. And then for scope would be either cluster or namespace. So either cluster scope resources or namespace scope resources. The demo that I'm doing is just namespace resources. And then the final thing to point out is the namespace. If you're doing a namespace scope backup or restore, this indicates the namespace that you're backing up or restoring. If you're doing a cluster scope restore, that will indicate where to put the BASREC that you're creating. It doesn't really matter where it goes, but I would suggest either default or in the BAS namespace if you're doing cluster scope backup and restore. And then let me show you the slide that I have. These are the three types I just showed in the documentation: backup resources, on-demand backup resources, and restore resources. There's a couple of differences from PVC BASRECs to point out. For PVCs, a BASREC is automatically created when you do a backup with the GUI. That's not so in this case. You have to create one manually if you want one. And then the other difference I already mentioned is that the name can be anything that you want, within Kubernetes limits. It doesn't have to be named after the PVC. There's a few limitations you should know about. You can't combine namespace scope resources and cluster scope resources or PVCs in the same BASREC. So if you wanted to back up all three of those, you'd have to create three different BASRECs. The restore via GUI you can do to alternate namespaces or alternate clusters. But for resources, you can only restore to the same namespace in the same cluster. PVCs is different, but this is resources we're talking about. And then finally, also, you can't back up by label or deployment just the resources. But if you back up a label with the PVCs, then it'll also get the resources that have that label. But you can't do just resources by label or deployment. Let me get out of this, and I'll show you the results of the restore job. Let's take a look. Yep, the restore job completed. It was successful right here. And so then I'll show you my services again. And there it is. The demo 1 DB2 service that we deleted is back. Okay, that's it for my demo. Thank you.